Welcome back to A Stoic Plays, ladies and gentlemen, and today we are continuing our Stoic playthrough of Serpent in the Staglands by Whale Knot Studios. I'm Marcus Aurelius, and we are back on the world map after hastily dispatching some outlaws in a round of combat that was substantially less brutal than what I'm used to. Actually, I'm trying to show you the game here, and part of that is the incredibly tough combat encounters that I just happen to not have. But that is okay. We are going down to the south to find this NPC in this city, one of the major cities of the continent, and we also need to find a shop, really, because our inventory is full. So let us continue. There is a day and night cycle, as you can see. Alright, Quorum, we've made it. The world map is kind of reminiscent of a Fallout or Fallout 2. It's got the grid system, which is different. I guess it helps put things in perspective in terms of finding out places, but other than that, it's very much like Fallout, where you move around on a map, and when you discover something noteworthy, it pops up, and you're allowed to then go into the isometric portion of the game. Great, more lemmings. I'd rather face a pack of wolves than these boil-brained simpletons. Catalina. That's rich, coming from someone who has the wits of a blunt axe. Who's talking to who here? I can't really tell. It's not my favorite either, but it is necessary. We'll leave soon enough. Okay, so we're in the capital here. And already we're approached by a mill. A young Varuchav. Oh, by the way, in the last episode I mentioned some of the races of the world. I did not mention the fifth race. And I'm not going to either because their name escapes me and I don't have one in my party. But what makes them interesting, they're like orange-skinned, pointy-eared people. Orange-skinned, elfy people, I guess. But what's interesting about them is they actually live on the mainland. Now, you could imagine the world. By the way, the world's name is Vol. You could imagine it as if, let's say there's no Pacific Ocean on Earth. Let's say the east coast, or the west coast of America and the east coast of Asia are touching each other. So there's just one big continent, right? Spanning the whole world, except for one sliver of ocean, which is mostly north to south. So imagine that's the Atlantic Ocean, right? Everything else is the mainland. Well, this game takes place on basically Greenland. So this landmass in the far north of the ocean slice of the world between the eastern and western edges of the main continent. And these people, this fifth race, they actually are the only race that currently lives on the main continent. Despite the fact that it's so large, I'm not sure what else is going on there. So, okay, he's intensely searching the face and figure of every visitor that enters the city. He sees you, and spark of recognition lights in his eyes. With a quick step, he walks towards you. Uh-oh, well, he recognizes us. I like to have Roxandra be my spokesperson because she is a noble. And I'll go into that in a little bit, why that's important. Hail, friend. I have been waiting many days looking for one described like you. I have news that is urgent and could not risk missing you as you entered the town. I am, well, was the messenger of Erlane. Erlane is the chief priest of your temple. And I have tidings I think you must hear. That is good to hear, for my search has been futile. What news? The worst of the news is that Erlane has, well, disappeared. I mean, he's dead. I can't believe it, but I saw his body, and it was him. I would know him anywhere. Dead? What happened? He left one night, said he'd be visiting the shipping guild. I think he believed someone there could assist him on his business. He never confided in me, so I know not what he was about. But the next morning he was not back, nor the next night. Finally, I snuck into the shipping yards, and I saw his lifeless body stuffed against a wall. That's terrible. He was like my buddy. I like that guy. His wounds were clearly those of a dagger, though I ran before I could look closely. I did not want to meet the same end, for I knew he would wish me to look for you and tell you of the news if he fell. I am sorry to be the bearer of such tidings, and no real help at all in your business. I am glad you have found me. I will seek what answers I can. I wish you luck. I'll be leaving back to the temple now. Farewell, friend. Farewell. So it sounds like he doesn't know. And let's pause it on that for a minute. Erlane is the only one, at least, that you're aware of, who knows that you are the mortal avatar of Nikolai, the moon god, the moon lord, as they call him. You're just pretending, as you go around this world, to be a spice merchant, known as a spicer. And the reason why that is a particularly good cover is apparently spice merchants go all over the place, for no good reason, trade in interesting spices, and they're known for being curious and asking a lot of questions. So it's the perfect cover for you to kind of go around, figure stuff out, and try to find out why it is you're trapped in the mortal realm. So Erlane came to this city to look for answers while you went to Emerald Metalis, and apparently poor Erlane did not survive. These are the arbiters I talked about. Now let me talk quickly about, I showed them really fast in the last episode, but let me talk really quickly about aptitudes. I called them skills in the previous episode, but there are 6 aptitudes, and you can spend points in them when you gain a level in the same way you could spend a point in learning a new spell or learning a new attack action. And aptitudes are different skills that your characters can have that lead you to do certain things in the game. And I'll kind of go into it. For example, philosophy. Now, I gave philosophy to Marcus. It makes sense, right? Marcus Aurelius. And philosophy is actually a really cool skill in this game, because one thing it lets you do is kind of suss up an enemy. Like, for example, let's use philosophy on the Arbiter. Oh, well, first I gotta pick Marcus. And let's use philosophy on the Arbiter. It'll tell you the level and the health of it. So it allows you to kind of get the bearings of the other people in the world. Another thing philosophy allows you to do is utilize an object called an imp in a jar. And this is what it says it is. It's an imp in a jar. And what it does when you free it from the jar is it grants you a bonus to one of your skill points. That's strength, dexterity, perception, at the cost of taking it from one of your companions. But only someone who's trained in philosophy can utilize this. And you find, I've already found 2 imps in jars throughout the world. There's probably more. And each aptitude has further uses. A really, really useful one is nobility. And that's what Roxandra has. And nobility works in numerous ways, but some of these skills you don't need to necessarily interact with something in order for them to work. For nobility, as long as Roxandra is the one who is involved in the conversation, as long as I choose to have her speak, her nobility works automatically. So when you're speaking with people like counselors or their squires, you want to have her do it because they will tell her things that they will not tell other party members. Likewise, the skill Harbinger is kind of like the law and order leadership skill. So if you wanted to speak with the arbiters or like the marshal, a character who had Harbinger would get more information out of them than anyone else. Likewise, if you have the herbology skill, if you speak to a herbologist, they will tell you more information than they would a regular person. And finally, linguistics. That makes sense, right? It allows you to speak multiple languages, so you can speak with people who don't necessarily speak the main language. But linguistics also has another cool attribute that I haven't even explored yet. Marcus does have a level of linguistics. But what it is you have what's called an incantation book. Somewhere. There it is. And you can actually type in an incantation. It's kind of like a spell, and it affects somebody. And it's a 3-word spell. And it starts with a prefix, and then the word of the spell, and then who it's to be used on. Now, of course, you have to know these things. So you get that from... Where are you? Linguist Words of Power. So there's action words. So if I want to slow down somebody, I would use vite. Whereas if I want to know if someone's a friend or an enemy, omn. Or if I want to lower the shields and defense of a foe, armura, and so on and so forth. So you start with Vrosk to curse an enemy, or Mayan if you want to involve the environment. In most cases, you're going to want to curse an enemy. So most of them start with Vrosk. Then in this case, it would be Vrosk Vita to slow them down, and then whatever their name is. And it has to be their true name. So you have to know their true name. And in most cases, that's not that hard. I haven't actually used that yet, but it seems really cool. And it just shows you how these abilities are unique and go beyond just what you think. You see, oh, someone's skilled in linguist, right? That must mean they speak a lot of languages. Well, no, it means they can actually cast a special kind of magic that only they can. Or like, oh, somebody's skilled in philosophy. That must mean they know about, you know, philosophy, like to be or not to be. But in reality, philosophy allows you to size up potential enemies, and it allows you to steal abilities from your companions. Then there's also Woodwise, which is basically what it sounds like. It's like a ranger skill of noticing things. And I think I've gone over all of them. So the person we're looking for is named Seraphim. But as this is supposedly a big city, it might take me a while to find them. If there's a little X when you hover over somebody, that means that they do not want to talk to you. There's no dialogue options. A store also would be nice. Sailors. Oh, there is one more thing. So the Woodwise skill, right? The nature ranger skill. Useful in a lot of ways. But it's useful in one way that you wouldn't normally expect. Frigoberto has it. And that is that it allows you to talk to animals. Come on, Frigoberto. There's a chicken. Oh, you know what? You don't have to use it, actually. You just talk to the chicken. What ho, chicken? With your Woodwise skill, you can read the chicken's desires, but all it is interested in currently is food. So that's a fun skill to have, too. There's actually only one good use for it, where you spoke with a rat, and the rat kind of told you what was going on in a particular village. Hey, Clothier. Ooh, he has a lot of cool stuff, but first I'm going to sell many things to him. And one thing interesting about this game is, unlike a lot of games, stores never restock. So once they're out of money, they're out of money. So you just have to be cognizant of that and spread out your selling of loot to different people. And many of them have quite limited stocks of items too. It creates kind of a level of scarcity that's really nice, actually. Different from your average game where they have just bajillions of dollars. Or, in this case, emeralds. Alright, I think we're going to keep the bow. Let's get rid of the amethyst. Oh, you can't afford it. Well, we'll get rid of the onyx. Alright, so let's look and see what he's selling. He has boots +1 and +2. Everybody already has boots +2 on my team. Wooden boots gives you less of a dodge chance, but protected feet. They seem like they'd be quite unusable, though. They are actually able to be worn with some comfort, though movement takes some getting used to. It seems like you might need those for a particular reason. Now this is good right here, because a tunic can actually be worn underneath armor, and it doesn't have any hindrances to you. Although this does give you SR +1. I keep forgetting what things mean. SR spell resistance. That's good. It gives you resistance to magic. Extra magical resistance. That's actually really good. So yes, Mr. Clothier. I believe we're going to purchase that. I'm not going to get any wooden shoes at this point. We are, after all, not Dutch. But let's see here. Marcus already has the light ringmail tunic, which gives him armor class +1. Or is it armor class? Yeah, armor class +1. So that's probably better for him. We haven't really seen people with much magical aptitude. Right now she's wearing a wool jacket, which as far as I can tell does nothing. It's just an item. So we could give it to Katarina, or we could give it to Roxandra, since she's in it for the long haul. I think I like her a lot. I'm going to keep her on the team. Yeah, we'll give it to her. Alright, well that was a fun little diversion. Now, I really enjoy this game. I love the whole idea of it. I love that it's a husband and wife development team who just made this really charming old school RPG. I love that its Kickstarter was successful. Let's see, robe leather armor. Nah. But there are some things that I don't love. The developers are kind of proud of the fact that it has a very steep difficulty curve at the beginning. And I don't really get that. Like, I don't mind you making a difficult game. I think that's fine. But you're also a business, and you're trying to make money. And, I mean, just slapping someone in the face right at the beginning by making them die to a fox is unnecessary. I mean, the game can still be tough. There he is, Seraphim. The game can still be tough, but let it be tough gradually. Let the first area be kind of a warm-up to learn the game's mechanics, find out what you're doing, and then hit somebody with hard difficulty. Instead of just right out of the gate, I could imagine so many people who maybe over time would really love this game giving up on it after about an hour because they just feel like, what is this? This is out of control. It's too difficult. And that's unfortunate, because I think there's a lot of good to this game that needs to be shown to people. Alright, let's talk to him. Well, actually, first, before we do anything, since he's replacing Catalina, let's strip her. Because she has the best armor that we have. Certainly don't want to lose that. Okay. Alright. Hello, sir. Yes? What business have you approaching a Viking? Now, see, she is a Viking herself, so I don't know why she would say, what is a Viking? What are you doing in Corum? I thought Vikings were supposed to be the best swordsmen in land. I'm an ambassador of the Varachov king. Well, Roxandra is one of the Varachov king's daughters, so perhaps, maybe you'd have heard of her? Maybe? I don't know. And I'm scouting the news for the land. Corum is one of many stops on my journey. I, too, am traveling the land. If you wish for companions, you might travel with me. It is not an unattractive offer. I have not had the easiest time on the roads alone. Where are you headed, and what is the object of your journey? North, and spice trading. Very well. If our paths part, it is of no matter, and I am eager to have company. Although if you think you'll be calling the shots, we'll quickly come to blows. Okay, now we're on to another really unique and cool thing about this game. You are a god, as I've mentioned multiple times. And yet, despite being a god, there is literally nothing that separates you from the average person. You do not have any skills or abilities or anything that a normal person doesn't have, except for the ability, apparently, to create companions out of thin air, but only a certain number of them, and they're pretty weak. And while you can create them apparently fully clothed, you cannot create them with any kind of armor, which doesn't make any sense, but we'll just skip that for right now. But one ability you do have, the one thing that you can do that other people cannot, is called soul binding. And is that you can find the soul of a person and you can bind them to your will so that they have to do everything you say. Now, this is a cool idea, but it's also another thing about the game that I am going to complain about. And I'll tell you why. Because the only people that you can actually soulbind are potential NPCs. Which doesn't make any sense. Like, if this were real, which obviously it's a fantasy game set in a fantasy world using magic and stuff, so it's not. But if it were, the first thing I would do as this god who fell down from the heavens and is stuck in a mortal form is I'd go up to the wealthiest, most powerful person I could find, and I'd soulbind them and say, okay, give me all your money. Or I'd go to the king and I'd soulbind him and say, okay, your army now is mine, and it's going to help me figure out what's going on. Right? And that's the first thing I do. Or just even if you're in a small town, go up to the merchant and say, okay, I'm soul binding you, give me all your money and all your goods. Instead, you're wandering around the world naked, getting killed by foxes, having to scrape together what few emeralds you can to purchase items. So if you can just randomly soul bind people to do everything you want, why is it only limited to your companions? Now, I get it for gameplay reasons. That makes sense. Obviously, if otherwise people would do exactly what I said and win the game in 5 minutes. No kidding. But you have to kind of explain it. If you're going to introduce an ability into the game, you need to explain how that ability works. You know? What are the limits of it? Who can it be used on? There's no in-game explanation for why you can soulbind potential companions to do whatever you want, but you can't soulbind anyone else. So anyways, that's one admittedly minor gripe in a game that I otherwise am in love with and think is fantastic. So you could theoretically soulbind him, which will piss him off because you've taken away his free will, but he will never leave you, and he will do whatever you want. I'm not a fan of that. I've never soulbound anyone. I'm a good god, so we're just going to take him as he is. And we're going to let go of Catalina. Erlaine wanted her back anyways. Now, Erlaine is dead, so not like he's going to miss her, but at least she can go back and protect my temple. As you shake hands and prepare to part ways, Catalina begrudgingly mentions intentions to return to, wow, I can't read that fast, Lumen Fortin. Yes, that's where I would expect that she would go. And now we have Seraphim. Now, what makes NPCs you recruit better than the ones you created on your own is that they routinely have more statistic points or skill points than a typical creation character would have at the level they're at. Especially this guy. From what I have read, this guy has a lot more skill and attribute points at his current level than anyone else in the game. Like 6 more. Look at his strength is at 17. You start with all 10s at level 1. So even if you put, well, you get 2 points each level. So you theoretically be able to, let's see here. So 1, 2, 7, 8, 9. Well, okay. Actually, that seems a little low. Because he would have gotten 2 points for 5 levels. Oh, right, but 0 doesn't give you any points. Or does it? Regardless, apparently he just has a lot of extra bonuses that a character you create yourself wouldn't necessarily have. And he'll probably come with his own... Yes, he comes with Harbinger 5, which is great because nobody in my party currently had Harbinger. Catalina didn't have any skills at all, so now we can start communicating with the town guards and stuff, and they'll give us extra information. And there's another thing that Harbinger can do, and I just don't remember. Maybe it explains it, actually. Let's see. You can yield larger reward for bounties and charismatically sway others to their aid. Oh, here's what a Harbinger can do. You can use a summoning horn that will summon creatures. And we actually have one of those. We have a goblin summoning horn. So we can finally use it now. So that's, again, another interesting skill that you wouldn't necessarily think can do something that does something kind of cool and unexpected. Well, we did what we set out to do. We recruited Seraphim to our team. Eventually, I want to get rid of Frigoberto and Caterina with NPCs as well. But currently, I'm not aware of any in-game NPCs that are pure healers. spec'd as pure healers. So right now, Katarina's kind of it. Frigoberto can really be replaced with anyone as long as they have the Woodwise skill, or I can give them the Woodwise skill. And we're starting to become monolithically raced with 2 of the Varchovs. But anyway, once again, I'm Marcus Aurelius. This is Serpent in the Staglands. It's really a fun, interesting game. Very difficult, absolutely no hand-holding. You're going to have to invest some time in it, learn how it works, read the manual. But I think it's worth it. I think it's a really great game, and I heard that there is an expansion on the way, so I'm looking forward to that. So once again, I'm Marcus Aurelius. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.